Okay, thank you. Everybody all set? Okay. Good evening.
Suzanne?
You want to
hear
check
me?
with Sabette?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sabette, do
Can
you hear
me,
us?
Suzanne? I hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I do. Thank you. I don't see you, but I hear you.
I'm here.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:03, February 22nd, 2024. And I'll introduce our voting members tonight, and our alternate is still a voting member from our continuation. So,
Point of order, Sabette is also an alternate sitting.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
got
there's
it.
two.
Yeah, I got it
Oh,
here.
okay.
Okay, I was going to
Sorry.
read it. My name is Suzanne Ryan. I'm vice chair sitting in for Ms. Klein, who has recused herself. To my left, Sarah Silk, and then Kate McMahon, alternate, who's been sworn to sit tonight. Chuck Sumner, who is a voting member, and Sabette Stroman, who's also a voting member. She's an alternate, but we swore them in to sit at our last meeting. So this is a continued hearing of February 5th, 2024, for Mr. Kent, 16 Libby Street, tax map 21713, case 02 AAD 24, administrative appeal of the planning board decision of December 5th, specifically 17557.1E4, as represented by Ms. Klein. The first order of business we have going forward, all of the information given at the February 5th hearing and all of the information received through the planning office to date has been shipped to our attorney. And all voting members have all the information. And all the information has been sent over to the attorney from day one. So for the record, so it will show up in the record, we have from Mr. Hart, 2/19/24, we have a detailed statement regarding this case, 02 AAD 24 meeting 25/24, and Mr. Hart's filing to the State Housing Appeals Board. As well as we have from Mr. Hart a Varney Engineering letter dated 2/21/24 regarding drainage. And the board members have seen all that. It's public record. And then from Klein, we have an email of 2/21/24, and it was a statement of authority to hear. Now, has the board read and had a chance to digest the bulk of it?
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a good start. So all of this will be entered into the official record through the minutes, and it also will be in the master file and the planning office attached to the minutes in the file folder. It will be too much to attach to each individual set of minutes. So tonight, when I open the portion of the public to speak, I request that only new information be presented, please. The board has had time to read all that you have sent, and so if you could just give an abbreviated subject matter, kind of a topic of what you'd like entered into the minutes, that would be very helpful. So, let's see. I don't see Ms. Klein. Oh, okay, yeah, no, yeah, she's not coming, all right. Mr. Hart or Mrs. Hart or representatives from the Hart household?
Good evening. Again, Dennis Hart, 20 Libby Street. We're direct downhill abutters from 16 Libby Street. Yes, sir, ma'am.
Just a little
Even
closer.
closer?
Thank you.
Is that better?
Oh, much.
Okay. So again, Dennis Hart, 20 Libby Street. For the February 5th meeting, we were overseas and we were unable to attend. We didn't even know the meeting was going on until after we got back. And we reviewed the videotape and prepared the clarifications and corrections, which I can answer any questions from that that I sent to the planning to the zoning board. And there was a lot of discussion during that meeting about qualified engineering assessments and documentation. So there was a comment that the town didn't have an engineer, Mr. Beckwith didn't have an engineer, Mr. Kent via Ms. Klein did not have an engineer. So we went out and hired an engineer. Mr. Varney, Tom Varney, and Josh Tebow are here from Varney Engineering in Alton. And they provided the letter that you guys have been submitted into the record. And kind of a high level, I won't read the whole document just because I know you want to kind of, this stuff is all part of the record, but there was some, fundamental questions where that, it was required, we required an engineer to prove that the water that was coming onto our patio and our driveway was in fact coming from the changes in slope and impervious surfaces from Mr. Beckwith's construction activity. In the letter, Mr. Varney concurs with that and actually, agrees, not agrees, but it, basically states that that there is increases in slope, it requires a more significant assessment, and that what the town planning board directed, kind of somewhat arbitrarily, was insufficient and would not be effective. So that's really a synopsis of the letter from Mr. Varney, and they are here to answer any questions or make any comments. I think Mr. Varney would like to just come up and say a couple words as well. I'm not planning on going through my document with regards to comments and clarification, but I do want to state a couple of things. Regarding the drainage, I think that we've beat that dead horse, as you guys have mentioned, and I think enough has been said about that, but I would like a professional's opinion about that. But with regards to specifically, there was some testimony with regards to the letter from the landscaper, and a lot about that. And the letter from the landscaper specifically said that it was attributed to his ability to mow the lawn and nothing else. There were also other statements in there that Mr. Steiner and Mr. Beckwith said that that the Beckwiths and Harts worked with Mr. Whitcomb together and hired him to resolve drainage issues, and that is not the case. We paid him exclusively. We paid him to do some extra work that was not on not part of our scope of work, and so I just want to be on the record, in addition to what I put in my statement, that that is not the case. We exclusively worked with Mr. Whitcomb. Mr. Whitcomb does mow Mr. Beckwith's lawn. I don't know if he has been hired to do any other work, but has not been associated with my retaining wall or his retaining wall.
If you've got something new there, we'd appreciate it.
Sorry?
Anything new that we haven't seen or heard.
Really, the most significant new thing is a qualified engineer's assessment of where the water is coming from and where it's going. And he does attest that it is coming from Mr. Beckwith's property, is not being managed properly, and is coming onto our driveway and our patio. That's really the only new information. And again, there was a lot of talk about a qualified engineering assessment with an engineering stamp, and we went out and got that. That's the only new information that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Varney, would you like to?
Tom Varney, Varney Engineering. Marge and Dennis had asked me to come by their property to look at that, and I did. I walked out back, and what I see is a building, a new construction. That's the garage being built. That is impervious area that's added to that property, which would increase runoff. It leaves that property somewhere and goes on down the hill, and we can see there's a slope there and congested houses. So the increase from the building, whatever else, could be a parking space, a porous patio, steps, walkways, that creates increased runoff. And that can be calculated, so you would compare that against what is pre-development before the garage, get cubic feet per second, then you can do a different computer model with the new construction and the new building and get the post-development runoff. And then you can get the difference of those, and then you would devise a stormwater system to mitigate that, to infiltrate that in the ground. And that's a stormwater solution. And that's done around Wolfeboro and all around the Lakes region for shoreline permitting and throughout the state. And that's what you would do here, and that's, I believe, easy to do. Above and beyond that, the building, the garage is 20 feet from the Hart's garage, and it's up higher. So when water runs off that building, it's very threatening that it's going to end up in their yard and possibly do damage. It really begs for something to be done there. And then the purpose of that is to protect Mr. Beckwith from the issues that you have at these hearings, so that you would have a solution that's engineered and the water is mitigated, the best you can do. And that's independent of why and how you need it through the permitting that's missing or lacking or required in the zoning. It's just something that needs to be done, and I would advise that Mr. Beckett do that regardless, just to protect himself. I can
Thank you.
answer any questions if you have any.
No?
I have a question. So have you run the numbers as to what the difference is in flow
No.
rates between before and after the construction?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what size drain is required?
No, but I know what it is. I've done enough of these, so it's very typical. If somebody were to build a garage on the lake, they would have a drip edge under the eaves, which would be a trench, length of the garage. That would capture and mitigate most of it, but if you have a patio there, which I believe they do, that would take a lot of water. That would be a real safety factor to get water into that patio, which is built up with crushed stone underneath it. That's where the water goes. And the water goes into the ground.
Right, but Mr. Beckwith has built some sort of a drain along the edge of the property there.
Yeah,
In your opinion, is that sufficient?
no.
But you haven't done the
It's not designed- If
calculations.
it were designed by an engineer, it would be sufficient to me, but I don't believe it is. So I'm not going to go out and measure that and look at that. I think
Okay.
you need to do this by the book. It's that serious
Yeah,
and needs
okay.
to be
Just
done.
looking for, an opinion,
Yes,
apparently.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, this is the microphone.
So my comment is, there's been a lot of focus on the water towards the back of the property that's running, allegedly, or that's running down the hill. And I believe where the trench has been put is really to address kind of that back of the property downhill issue. My issue is towards the uphill part of the property, because it's coming onto my patio. It's not going into my backyard. That's why Mr. Whitcomb said there was no issues mowing the lawn. It's also going onto my driveway, based on the slopes and some attempted mitigation, which isn't working. And, I'm basically held up from completing a driveway project until this is resolved, because I don't want to build this driveway and then have everything washed out or things like that. So I'm not addressing anything downhill from me. I'm addressing my wife, our property on our land, which is and the damage to our patio and to our driveway.
Chuck, did he answer your question? Sarah?
Yes, I have a question, just so that I'm sure I'm understanding. exactly where you're talking about. We went down there for a viewing, well, actually, we've been to several viewings, and when we were there, we could see in front of that little building that you have there, there was all kinds of siltation all around there. Is that the area that you're talking about?
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
And I actually, in my commentary that I sent back, I did a sketch based on, I'm trying to find it here. I think it's right here. Yeah, on page 17 of the document that I gave you guys is kind of an overview, which identifies where our wall is and where the issues are, where the shed is located, where the silt is coming onto our patio behind the shed, and where the stuff is coming onto our driveway in front of the shed. So that's the area of my concern, our concern.
Okay, thank
Our
you.
Xerox copies were not very clear, so that's why I wanted to just make sure I knew what you were looking at.
So here is the addition,
Yes,
right? Here's my shed,
yes,
right? This is the back of the property. This is the front of the
Correct.
property. This is where I believe the trench has been done.
yes. When we observed it, it was where the silt fence was showing at the back left corner of your, what you call it, a garage, or what? Shed. Okay, yeah, it is small. And it was heading towards the uphill side of,
It's actually downhill back this way. What my area of concern is this patio that's on this side of my shed, and this area of my driveway, which is in the front of my shed. My house is here, the driveway is there.
right, and right here in front of this little shed
Yeah.
was where, when we went down for one of our visits, we saw a large amount of where water had come down and deposited all the siltation. Okay, so I just wanted to make certain I knew where the spot was. Thank you. I appreciate your help.
All right. Sabette, can you hear us? Sabette, are you there?
Oh, yep, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm just checking to see if you're there.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all set. Okay, Mr. Beckworth's side, does anybody want to have a word or two? Got something new for us? Something new?
Yes. So again, Attorney Jim Steiner, I represent Mr.
Get
Beck.
close to the microphone.
Absolutely.
Thank
People
you.
don't usually accuse my voice of not throwing all the way to the end of the room, but happy to speak close to the microphone to help.
Thank you.
It helps for the people on TV.
Oh,
too.
excellent.
So-
Sure. So there are two procedural issues to raise with you and a substantive issue. The procedural issue is as follows. At the last meeting, this zoning board indicated it would be seeking advice from its counsel regarding the planning board's attorney assertion that there is no proper appeal here to the zoning board, regardless of whether the authorization was valid or not. And I don't know if,
We've done all that, and I'm just given the courtesy of each side to have a last word.
oh, okay, thank you. So the second procedural issue is this appeal, if properly taken, was taken by Mr. Kent. The Harts have a separate action going, but they did not appeal to the zoning board, to this zoning board, any issue. So while they are welcome to appear, while they are welcome to offer supporting testimony regarding Mr. Kent's appeal, I'm going to make a motion that this board should strike the submissions by Mr. Hart and by the engineer because they have no standing to be making arguments regarding their own home. That will be heard in the housing board, but because they had the opportunity, they could have done what ostensibly Mr. Kent did through Ms. Klein, but they didn't. So procedurally, they really don't have an issue to present. And again, as I mentioned, and I'd be glad to ask the engineer to answer this question, the road is crowned. All roads are crowned. Mr. Kent, to the extent he has any water issue, it's on his side of the road. As you know, the Harts live on the same side of the road as the Beckwiths. To the extent there's a water issue with Mr. Kent's side of the road, there is no appeal by the Harts that addresses any water issue on their side of the road, the Beckwith side of the road. So again, this zoning board would be going beyond the scope of its authority to accept the engineer report or to accept the 89-page submission. And that doesn't mean it's not going to get heard, it's just not appropriate here. So that's the second procedural issue. Substantively, Mr. Beckwith would tell you that, when the engineer came out, the trench was covered in snow, so he wouldn't have had an opportunity to actually see it and evaluate it. And given that he's concluded it's ineffective, really it requires more evidence than I saw, a snow-covered something, and I couldn't really inspect it, but I don't think it's adequate. I just put that in the record, but again, I go back to the fact that it shouldn't even be considered because there is no appeal by the Harts before the zoning board.
Okay, point well taken. Point's well taken.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you
and
very much.
we're not going to have a back and forth. No. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As far as the testimony, there's been, it's public information handed in, so that will be part of the record. And this board, with the advice that we've been given throughout this process, knows what subject matter is to be taken under consideration and what we just overlook and not part of our jurisdiction. So we're all set with that.
I do have some photos to introduce that were taken today by the Beckwiths. What it shows is that the photos you have of gathered silt.
You're fine. You can hand those in.
Yeah, well, just to explain that the photos show that the issue of silt hasn't changed.
Okay, I imagine they're self-explanatory. We've visited the site enough times to get a handle on it. Thank you. I'll put that
You
in
don't
the,
need a photo.
put that in the record.
That's okay, we can share.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, board members. Is there anyone else in the public that wants to speak?
Hey, I actually have
Because
two stapled together.
Mr. Hart has given us,
Can you adjust that microphone somehow so we can hear you loud and clear? Thank you.
Mr. Hart has given you a package with a bunch of pictures in it. They're all dated.
Sure.
And so
We know
I just
you
wanted
are-
to let everyone know that in the 4 months from he started dating the pictures until today, there's been 16.12 inches of rain. That's a lot. And you will see that on my pictures, the silt has not changed a bit since September. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to move on to some substantive stuff.
Madam Chair, will you be closing the public hearing at this point? Public input?
Yeah, I'll close public input. At this point, I'd like to give an overview of some information, and I've kind of encapsulated it. There is definitely an interpretation of the zoning ordinance involved here, and normally that would be with the ZBA. However, in the zoning provisions involved in an innovative land use control under 67421, which is administered by the planning board, the appeals don't go to the ZBA, but instead go to the court or the housing board appeals. This is explained in 676.5 Roman 3, and you all have a copy. Since this isn't a building permit being appealed here, the provisions regarding the building permit aren't relevant to this appeal for the planning board, from the planning board decision. The major point is that the accessory dwelling unit conditional use permit provisions are innovative land use controls under the RSA 674-21. Even when the planning board is making an interpretation, application, or construction of the terms of the zoning ordinance that would normally be with the ZBA jurisdiction, it is different when an innovative land use is involved. In those cases, the law says that the appeal must go directly to the Superior Court or the Housing Board, and that's applicant's choice, and cannot be heard by the ZBA, and again, 676 Roman 3. The part of the appeal that are related to building permits and certificates of occupancy rather than the conditional use permit don't appear relevant because this appeal doesn't involve a building permit or a certificate of occupancy. In summary, it doesn't look like there are any issues in this appeal that the ZBA can hear. Some were supposed to go to the court, some go to the housing board, others are not relevant to the approval that the planning board actually gave. Now, is the board clear on what I read? Okay.
Yes.
Kate, you all set?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes, I agree with the advice that we have been giving. I do also think that the planning board has erred in their decision, but it's just not the right venue to bring it to us.
Okay. Sabette, I don't know if you can hear me, but are you clear on what I just read?
Yes, I'm clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So, therefore, per the provisions of innovative land use control under RSA 674-21, administered by the planning board as explained in 676-53, I move to dismiss this case 02 AAD 24, from Mr. Kent, received December 28th, 2023, of an administrative appeal of the planning board decision of December 5th, 2023. I'd like a second, and then I'd like any discussion.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, everyone all set?
Yeah, my discussion is that I think perhaps things were overlooked. I totally agree that there's a drainage problem, but that is not our place to make any decision about that at this time, or any time, because it was innovative zoning.
Right. Sabette, are you all set?
I'm set. Thank you. No discussion.
Okay. So I've got a second, so I'd like a roll call vote on that motion. Chuck?
Yes.
Kate? Sarah?
Yes.
Suzanne, yes.
Sabat?
Sabette,
I'm
yes.
sure they can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sabette, I'm sorry. Did she say that? Did she say yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Okay, then I'll close the continued hearing.
Suzanne,
Yes,
if we've closed that, could I say something that's just kind of a general comment? Or is that not appropriate?
if it's not specific to the case, because the case is dismissed and closed, if it's something internal or something like that, I guess it would be all right. I have no idea what it is that, that you might say.
Well, who knows what I'll say, but, it's kind of a process observation a little bit, but I just want to say, and I feel like we need to say this too for Mr. Beckwith, but I am very disappointed with the advice and the support that was given to Mr. Beckwith by the town planner every step of the way through this process.
That's out of line. We really don't need to hear that.
I can't hear, her.
It might be a point well taken, but I don't think this is the appropriate place.
All right, I couldn't hear what she's saying, so
I was
anyway.
disappointed in advice that had come from staff.
It's out of line, and it's just one person's opinion.
Okay. All right, Sabette,
That's true.
thank you, thank you. I guess it's not the time for it.
Okay.
The hearing's closed. We're not going to be talking about this case. Actually, we shouldn't be talking about this case till it gets through the courts in Concord. Tavis, I do have a question for you, though.
I don't think he heard you.
Tavis. Can you, and this isn't talking about the case, but can you tell us, educate us on how this process goes forward to the State Housing Board? Like, what are your next steps? How does it work just enlighten us as to how this works. Now, has the town answered this?
I don't have the exact statute number memorized, but the state recently approved or created the Housing Appeals Board, which has its own statutory provisions. The first step of which is the receipt of the appeal, which the town received from Mr. Hart. That was all forwarded to the planning board attorney, and the planning board attorney has taken direction from there. So there's been a copy of the entire planning board record that went to the state. There was an answer filed by planning board counsel. And once the Housing Appeals Board can convene, they will hear that within, I believe it's 90 days once they have all their submission timelines completed.
Okay.
And then we will have an answer.
Yeah, and even though it's not relevant to us as being part of the case, will you please keep us informed of
It's all public.
how
yes.
it's going along?
I'm sure it will become general town knowledge across town once that's finalized.
Okay.
But yes,
All right, thank you. Don't go away, though, Tavis. We're going to need you for a little bit.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. All right. It's safe to leave, everybody. We're not going to be talking about the case.
Suzanne,
Yes.
I do still have a question, a comment, even though I'm assuming it was the attorney that said it wasn't appropriate, but I have something I do want to say.
I can't hear it. I don't understand.
She has a comment she'd like to make.
I still say I have something I want to say. I have something I want to say.
Oh,
I have been on a number of boards.
okay.
Wait, I have.
No, we have other stuff to do.
All right. Hang on a minute, Sabette. We're waiting for Tavis to join us.
Are we going to do minutes?
We're going to do a couple things. Tavis, you all set?
I'm here.
Okay.
I don't know if I need to stay over there. if I
No,
get-
they don't need to stay.
No, if I need to stay over there.
No, you come back with us.
Good now?
Okay, bye. Okay, just for the record, I would like to have a roll call vote that the legal advice that we've received will not be made public.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ryan in favor?
Yes.
Yes, McMahon.
Yeah, if that's your wish,
close
then
enough.
yes.
It's not my wish. I think it's the proper thing to
Secretary
do.
needs to hear your voice off the recording.
okay, yes.
You need to really get close.
All right.
Okay.
And then now, Sabette, I guess you want it, Sabette, we can't talk about the case.
I'm not talking about the case. I'm
Okay.
talking about the process.
Do you want to do that at our next meeting so it doesn't look as though we're talking about the case?
No, I think I want to say it now. Because I don't think I'm talking about the case.
If you can talk about it without talking about the case,
Okay, what I would say is that I've been on a number of boards. I've worked with leadership from executive level down. And one of the things that we frequently do after a very complicated situation is something called a post-mortem, where after the fact, and in this case, it would be after the hearing,
we don't hear you. We can't hear you.
Did you turn her off up there, TV person? Oh,
well, I'm here.
okay, he says he thought it froze for a minute.
Okay.
We can hear you now, Sabette.
So what my suggestion is, based on a lot of experience, is with a complicated situation like this, that it's a great learning opportunity for the town and for both the planning board and the ZBA after the hearing, not now, to step back and look at this from a post-mortem perspective. What happened? What could have been done better? Where did we go wrong? How could we have saved the applicant time and money? How could we have saved the town time and money? So I would just like to go.
You're frozen again. If you can hear us, Sabette.
Okay, I can hear you.
We
It will
couldn't
just
hear
be a
you.
it will be a huge missed opportunity if we don't take the time later on, in conjunction with planning even perhaps, to look at this and the process that we've gone through and that we have put our applicant through.
Okay, thank you. I get the point about postmortem. I think that sums it up.
I think that, maybe a short discussion about that at our next work session when we're talking about our procedures might help us to improve our procedures.
Okay, so then, thank you, Sabette.
By the way, I agree with Sarah. The next work session might be a good place to talk about that.
Yes. I
I'm
agree,
thinking
too.
we may need our own separate session just for that whole
Yeah.
conditional use thing.
Yeah.
It's not as easy. It's a very complicated process, given the way our ordinance is written. So, minutes, I'd like to get the minutes reflective of this case approved and filed. So the set that I have is February 5th, 2024, and the only correction that I saw was that under members present, I didn't see Sabette's name there.
I was there.
Can I just see that a second? I don't see my set right now. Sorry.
So it's where it says, where it says
Members present.
alternate, they didn't fill in the line after, which just should say Sabette.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I saw, and I was glad to see that they put the attachments.
I move to accept the minutes as corrected.
Second.
Second.
I'll second that, although I misplaced mine at the moment. I have so many pages here. So,
All those in favor of the minutes as amended?
Aye.
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 Aye, aye.
If we found
Okay, that was
something-
unanimous.
Yeah.
And Tavis, I don't know where we are with any of the other minutes prior to that. I thought at one of the meetings I encouraged the acceptance just for filing purposes.
You
I
did.
think it was
You-
January.
Wait.
You did, but right after that was the January 8th meeting. So those are the only other minutes, but they can be dealt with at your next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have trouble hearing him, too.
Yeah.
Wasn't it January 8th, Tavis?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the minutes for January 8th.
You-
I saw it.
You made a motion that covered everything up until the January 8th meeting.
Okay.
So on tonight's agenda, we're 1-8 and 2-5. You just approved 2-5. 1-8 can go to the next meeting.
Okay, so we're good.
Yes.
We'll
Okay.
cover,
So we just approved which set?
2-5.
Now, this set, the 5th.
Okay, so we still have to approve January 8th, correct?
correct.
Yes, but you can do that at the next meeting.
Oh, I thought the point was approving them was so we could get them sent out in case somebody needed them for any reason.
They're all in the town clerk's hands as they are, and they're online as they are.
Okay. I don't know why we wouldn't want to approve the 8th, but,
I don't have them.
okay.
Minutes I
I'm
have.
sure they came
Yeah.
online, but
They're out there.
Yeah,
Did you get them?
the January 8th?
Yeah?
Yeah,
And Chuck, are you guys good with them?
yeah.
You see anything that needs fixing?
We can always, at our next
amend
meeting,
them
if something
after.
comes up, we can always, yes.
Kate, want to make a motion to accept these minutes?
Sure. I make a motion to accept the minutes for January 8th,
What year?
2024,
As written?
as written.
Okay.
Second.
Chuck seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good, we got those out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That was down Springfield Point. Yeah.
I don't have agenda in front of me, and I know you gave me one. I don't think there's anything on there that we want to address tonight, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Chuck, all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you for your patience.